Right, here we are, Spotlight Vimy. This is the strategic importance of the ridge. There, you can see the panoramic right across the landscape all across there. And as the monument says, it took 4 divisions to take this ridge. But anyone from an artillery perspective, you know, you can see the massive importance of this place. A lot of the area has been sectioned off so that you can't walk on it, so I imagine, as you can look over to there, a lot of it is probably all the ordnance that's still under the ground. But it has a strange quiet to the place. So it says here that the Canadian Corps on the 9th of April with 4 divisions in line in the front 4 miles attacked and captured this ridge, and my great-grandfather was one of them. He was in a siege battery, so he would have been pounding this place to obviously soften it up so that the invasion could take place with the infantry. But if you can look behind me there, you can see how the ground is all uneven. That's all the trench system and shells where the shells have gone off, you know. Get you a better view of the monument now. There. It's actually quite impressive. And it has a kind of a respectful peace about it. I mean, you've got young people as well who are coming with their families. So it's nice that the generations are passing it on, you know, showing them what people have got to be thankful for today, you know. And all along the sides, all along the walls, all along the sides of this monument are all the names of everyone who fell. And it just says on the side here that the roll of honour ends just there, of all the named soldiers that they could identify. But a further section of the wall there is given to the soldiers who they couldn't name or they couldn't identify, but still remained obviously respectful. And that total even there came up to 18,283 bodies that they just couldn't identify. towards some of the trench systems here, I want to just point out that behind me there's a site of a massive explosion. So I'm going to raise the camera up so you can actually look, but you can see in between them trees there, a huge bit. Can you see it up there? Yeah, it is. Look at the size of some of them shells that must have been going off. These look like tree stump behind me. And you can see the road just goes all the way round, but it's just massive scarred landscape. And over there, the other side of the fence as well, you can see it all the way along there. It's all the same. I did read actually 14 heavy battery did a 20-day bombardment. 20 days. I can't even picture what it would be like on Salisbury Plain, firing shells from a 105 for an hour. The sound that it must have made, you know. When I finished training, we went down there and they only fired off a few rounds, and that was exciting enough, you know, and noisy enough. But 20 days raining shells down from a heavy battery, that must have been phenomenal. And the likes that we could not picture, because we'll never experience something like that again, hopefully, anyway. But it certainly does make you think. It makes you stand and stare, you know. Right, we'll go down towards the trenches now. This is just pointed out as I was talking about the crater over there. She says if you think that one was big, look at that one, and look at the ones we just pointed out there. So you've got a few trees in front there. But if I raise the camera up again now, hopefully you can see it. That impact crater. Huge, huge. You must have heard this battle from miles, you know, the engagement. Right, onwards to the trenches. Right. Okay, same impact crater, and you can see it from a better angle there now. But look where it dips, and it just disappears down. Can you see it? I mean, that is huge. They must have heard that from London. There's places in the UK near Lichfield, I think, other places, ammunitions factories and stuff like that, where accidents happened and a huge explosion, and they've been left with, you know, like a lake that's, you know, because of the crater, it's filled up with water, and it, you know, and it shows you the size of the impact craters. But you know, this thing here, this was going on and going on, you know. It doesn't quite compute to our modern thinking, I don't think. Right, we'll go and find the trenches. If I spot anything more, then I'll just switch the camera on again. The only people, actually, the only things that are moving around on here are, you'll see them behind me now, are the sheep. The sheep graze it. There, look at that. It just goes on and on and on through the woodland. And even though we've got traffic going backwards and forwards, it's still quite quiet, you know. I think there we're just coming up to, there's a trench system just here. There you go, look. And there you can see it, look. And that trench obviously continued right across the road to that side there, you can see. And they interlock as well, which I presume is so they could protect against blast damage if one, you know, if a shell went off in a trench, it wouldn't blast all the way along in a straight line. Right. Now you can see now, you can actually look into that one. A massive, massive crater. Huge. Yeah. Yeah. And there's another. This is like the spring that was sticking out the ground, which you can see there. This is the trench system. So down there. Does it? Oh yeah, the tunnel system, yeah. So just the artillery shell there, look. Yeah. Okay, we are in the village of Nouvelle. We were talking to the staff over at the Canadian Memorial at Vimy, and according to the old map, into the village here is where the artillery would have been, the heavy batteries, which was what my great grandfather was. That direction there is where the sorry about the camera there. That direction over there is where the memorial is, and is where Hill 145 is, which is, you know, top of Vimy. And the artillery, which was 14 heavy battery, Royal Garrison artillery, which he was, would have been in this field here, this area along here. And this is where they would have all been positioned along. And they would have obviously pounded that up there to soften it up then for the, I've got it on my phone, I'll just get it now. Okay, right in front of him was the fourth Canadian Infantry Brigade and the 3rd Canadian Infantry Brigade, which they would have been in situ, probably just a couple of miles, or well, less than a mile further up there, waiting to go in to take the ridge. And then along here, is it safe? So this is the skyline that he would have known. You know, he would have been familiar with the sun in that position, the earth, everything. He would have known all of this, you know. So it's a good moment, you know, for me, as part of my heritage and obviously interest in the military as well. To know that sort of along this area, somehow, you know, he may have walked down that street, you know, he would have seen that church on the skyline, because that would have been there when he was there. Obviously the houses all around, you can see it's all new build and stuff like that, so it was all quite unfamiliar. But certainly this area, I'll just get a bit more in. It sort of makes you a bit lost for words, actually. But I've wanted to do this all my life. I've wanted to come and stand where he stands, because there isn't a lot about 14 battery, as in from the First World War. When I joined 16 Regiment in Germany, they've got 14 battery in them, but they adopted somebody else's battle honours and somebody else's battery history. So there was nothing about my grandfather in it. So here, anywhere here, he could have been picking shells up and loading them in and pounding those massive craters which are over there. But this is his sky, and you can probably only just see it, but there, the church is just behind those trees there, and these trees certainly wouldn't have been here because it would have been blown flat. But look at that, the sun comes out, you know. The ironic thing was, as Tracy pointed it out, is we left the memorial after speaking to one of the museum curators there, and she described quickly on an old map, you know, which is here, only small, you know, on the phone. And she said, yeah, your grandfather would have been here and you're up here and stuff like that. So we drove down the road, went over a motorway, and we don't know where we're going, so you question it in your head. But somehow we just drove into the village, and I thought, well, going by what he fired, what he used, and where he should have been, and his arcs and everything, this is pretty much excuse me, and to where the church is positioned, which she also mentioned, this is pretty much where he would have been. And we just happened along the side street, pulled along, and says, oh, we'll find a place to turn round, because we thought, oh, we can't find it. And as soon as we pulled in, we looked, position of the church, field, area, and we thought, this is it, this is actually it. So we almost, you know, were guided. It was just chance, obviously, but it does make you think, you know. So here it is, you know, Charles Thomas Purvis, you know. Drank wine, smoked fags, and passed the time, and did his job here. Yeah, definitely. Glad I came now. Right, let's go and have a look at the church.